Good day, everyone. I'm Xanda Hilger, and I coordinate the North Central Texas Caregiver Teleconnection. And today we have a topic that is of interest to every caregiver, and that's the financial issues, and especially the challenges of financial issues that may involve the people that we're caring for as a caregiver. Our speaker today is John Leithner. He has been a financial advisor since the year 2000. He founded and is the lead advisor at Leithner Financial Group. He earned a BS in Accounting, Business Administration, and Economics from Eastern Oregon University. He provides clients with a wide range of specialized financial guidance. He enjoys providing holistic financial planning. His focus is on his clients' investment, insurance, retirement, and wealth management needs. He holds the FINRA, which is the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, Series 7, 63, and 66, which are security regulations where people that go through these, they have to test, and they're licensed and regulated by authority through Congress, as I was reading this morning. He also provides life and health insurance, has health and life insurance licenses. John specializes in creating and maintaining personalized financial plans for families, which includes budgeting, retirement, life insurance, long-term care, and estate planning. Some of John's most treasured moments are when he can sit down with clients and show them how they can achieve their hopes and dreams. John, thank you again for joining us. And if you had some opening remarks, and then John and I have prepared some questions that we think are probably important to many people listening.
Thanks, Xanda. That's a really nice introduction. I appreciate that. I'm probably, through our questions, I'm going to approach, excuse me, my answers from both perspectives, both from the child caring for an elder parent, as well as the parent that may need some care and need some direction on how to talk about their finances with their kids and what their hopes and desires are for their care years, if you want that, or their older years. Hopefully the care years are few that they're able to live full lives, but I'll be using examples from both sides of that.
Okay, John, in your experience, what role do family members play in helping older relatives understand the importance of financial planning for the future? And how do you start that conversation that can be so difficult?
Well, that's a really loaded question, and again, coming from both ways. So let's talk about the child, or the younger generation talking to that older generation of what do you, how do you want to live your life? What do you want to have happen? And sometimes that older generation, because their age and um, that generational difference can be very tight-lipped or very just closed off from sharing about finances and stuff. So leave the questions open, like, hey, you're getting up there in years, and we just want to make sure that you're taken care of. What should we know? It shouldn't be well, mom and dad, where's the money at? Those types of things, and just open that conversation. And sometimes it's not an all-in-one conversation of, maybe it's a question over a holiday dinner or something, and then you come back to it a couple weeks later. Finances are very personalized for family members, and some families will be, it'll just be, okay, I'm going to throw up on you. I'm going to give it to you all, and it'd be the overwhelming, oh my goodness, didn't want all that information. And sometimes it's kind of prying, but you need to treat the elders with some care and respect. I have clients that they know everything about what's going on with their parents. They've been involved in meetings with the advisor, the CPA, the family attorney, so they know everything. And then there's some, that younger generation that, my goodness, my mom won't even tell me where the bank account's at, that kind of thing. So it's really just being open, being respectful, um, being caring with those. Parents might be embarrassed about the lack of their planning. Um, and so you got to be recognize that. And then the other part of that, roles are reversed for that conversation. It's always been, well, the parent cares for the child. Well, now the child is in the different role, and so is the parent of the child's wanting to care for the parent or needing to care for the parent. And so that can be tough. Is there anything we should know about how you want to be cared for? How do you want to, where do you want to live when you can't do it all on your own? So I talked a little bit about the child. Let's reverse that role. I personally have created a manual, if you will, for my kids, and specifically my daughter. Um, it's basically, where's all the bank accounts? Who do you contact from my business to, because I have a buy sell agreement for my business that, she wouldn't have a clue. And it's, who do I need to contact, phone numbers, the whole bit. And when I sat down with my daughter and I gave her this, I think it's 7 pages long, and I call it a manual, she bawled at me. She cried. Dad, you're not going anywhere. But I want it to be as easy as possible on my kids, um, to know. And so I'm more open, probably because of my experiences with clients. Um, I just had one of my clients pass away, and her son is also my client, and we'll call him Scott. Scott, 3 weeks, and he's still digging through her house, and he all of a sudden finds $120,000 of U.S. savings bonds
Mhm.
in a closet.
Wow.
And she had close to 25 accounts scattered, and he had no idea what his mom had, how to deal with it, whatever, because she didn't share. And so it's been tough for Scott to go through that, and very time consuming. And so really it's on both sides for the children, and or that younger generation, older generation, and it could be nieces and nephews, uncles and aunts, grandparents, great grandparents, both, that it's just sharing a little bit. And it could be, if you don't want to share, it could be just, here's my advisor's business card. Here's my attorney's business card. Here's my CPA's business card. Something happens to me, you know who to contact. I'm not sharing anything else. They know where everything's at. Or it could be as extensive as what I've done, of creating a manual for my kids.
Mhm.
That step by step. Where do you go? Who do you talk to? Obviously I manage my own finances, but you know, here's the advisor I want you to use when something happens to us. Um, and my wife knows the same thing. Um, so I'm kind of going off script here about the question, but
Yes.
um, my wife knows where everything's at. She has access to that manual. I have, usernames and passwords back there. I'm going to use another example. I have a client named Linda that, her husband passed away, and he took care of everything. She didn't have a clue, and she had been after him about taking care of some things. And he goes, "Oh yeah, 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 I'll get to that." And it ended up being there was a large account there that he hadn't added her to, and all of a sudden that account has to go through probate. And so there's things that even spouses need to share between each other and know, um, and know where everything's at.
John, you were just referring that you put together a manual for your daughter.
Uh-huh.
Does it exist somewhere that you have seen some step-by-step, 1, 2, 3, 4, that anyone needs to consider to make sure that information is provided, especially when it's an older person, that maybe their adult child says, I want to make sure I carry out your wishes. Can you share this with me? And if not with me, with your attorney, or where could we capture this so we're left wondering what you wanted?
So I'm not sure if I don't remember if I'm supposed to drop any company names, but Transamerica, it's one of the mutual fund companies that I've used in the past, but they also do life insurance, etc. They have a great little booklet,
Mhm.
and it's geared towards that Centers for Aging or whatever, that does, have you done this? Have
Mhm.
you recorded that? Have you shared with kids? And it has a bunch of questions. And I'm not sure I could even lay my hands on it, but you could probably pull up Transamerica um, questions for elders or manual for elders or something like that. And you'll probably be able to pull it up. I just created it myself. I just things that knowing what I know, I want to make it as easy as possible for my daughter. Phone numbers, addresses, names, account numbers, you know, the whole taco. Um, and so, yeah, there is some resources out there that, and sometimes attorneys will
Mhm.
actually have resources. And later on, I'm gonna talk up, attorneys and CPAs and insurance agents. We all need to work together.
Mhm.
We should be a team, basically. We shouldn't be fighting each other. And you should have, your attorney should be talking to the advisor, and the advisor should be talking to the attorney about, hey, are accounts titled right? Are, do you have TOD or POD designations on your accounts, meaning transfer on death or payable on death? Those types of things that then avoid probate. I'm sure you guys talked about that last time, about having accounts titled properly. Is there a trust? Is there a will? Um, how does that work? Is there estate taxes? Oregon's a big one. Anytime my clients approach that $1 million net worth,
Mhm.
um, they need to be looking at a trust, a credit shelter trust, to avoid the Oregon state estate tax. Um, it's not an automatic thing. Here in Texas, we don't have to worry about that. So I'm not big on trusts in Texas unless you're trying to control something from the grave. But your advisor and your attorney should be talking to each other. The same thing about the advisor and the CPA. If the advisor all of a sudden sells a bunch of assets in a year that there's other income coming in, and it's a little late come tax time when the CPA says, why did you sell all that stuff? My goodness, we're handing them a $40,000 tax bill. So, they should be talking to each other. Same thing with the insurance agent. And that's as a financial advisor, I, most times I play quarterback role
Mhm.
of, hey, let's get this coordinated. I cannot give you legal advice. Here's some generalities. Well, let's get the attorney on the phone. Let's talk to the CPA. hey, uh, we need to protect assets. How's your homeowner's insurance look? Do you have proper coverage? Do you have an umbrella policy? Because again, I manage assets, but that insurance piece, we need to have that in place to protect those assets. Long-term care insurance is a big one, especially for people that are getting older. And there's a time and place for that.
And John, just for information for everybody, the AARP has a resource through their foundation that is Leave a Legacy.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a free kit that they provide that might also be a way, and it's in several sections, setting family goals, lessen tax burdens, using trust, keep a digital record. So it looks like Transamerica, and then of course AARP is usually a very trustworthy source,
Yep.
and they're
Yep.
not pushing anything in particular. It's just more information.
Yep. Yep. Um, there was one other thing. I attended a conference, and the reason I remember the Transamerica thing, the speaker was, you talked about leaving a legacy. The speaker was even talking about something unique as leaving a recording for the ones that you leave behind of, let me tell you about my life.
Hmm.
And I thought that was very unique. We as advisors are in that relationship business, if you will. Most people think I just sit at a computer and trade stocks all day long. I don't. It's the value is getting to know my clients, getting to know people and have that personal relationship with that person. And again, trusted advisors, kind of going off script and getting ahead of myself a little bit. Um, but you've got to be comfortable with your advisor. If well, all four of them, your advisor, your attorney, your CPA, and your insurance agent, if they're, if you get that sinking feeling in your gut that there is something off, go find another one, get a referral. You've got to trust those people to do the right things for you.
John, one of the things that frequently comes up is I can't afford to have the CPA and an attorney and but many of these people that you've referred to, they present themselves as advisors. They're not necessarily hard selling something, they are educating and advising. And one of the things I also wanted to add, Terry Bradford made this comment: check with the local ADRC or the Area Agency on Aging. Um, for example, attorneys, they very often can help connect. Either the ADRC or the Area Agency on Aging can help connect people with advisors. There are
Mhm.
many professionals out there that are doing pro bono work, for example. So that's an idea to do. And you can reach, they're all over the United States. You call 211 in any state in the United States, and you're going to reach either an area agency on aging or the ADRC, which is Aging and Disability Resource Centers. So thank you, Terry, for that jogging of the memory.
So I'm gonna comment about the advisor role. I am duly licensed. I hold myself as a fiduciary, and that fiduciary role is putting my interests ahead of, or sorry, flip side, no, putting my clients' interests above my own. And I know the CFP world, most of those advisors are fee only. Um, I am working towards my CFP, but you need to find an advisor that can do both of those roles. That they're really putting the client's interests ahead of their own. They're just not trying to push a commission product or bill for hours or that kind of thing. And yes, advice. Give that um, bold, blunt, facts based advice.
Right, right. When um, you've talked about several resources already, the financial advising kit or those other things, what other resource do you think it's important for family members to be aware of? Maybe the conversation hasn't started yet with their loved one, their older loved one, but is there a list they can start putting together, or have you seen a list that would be a good way that they can refer to that list when they start that journey, whether it's financial planning or long-term care or whatever? Do you
The
have a
list,
list of links, perhaps?
I don't specifically have a list for links. And again, I think your trusted advisor should. And
Mhm.
sorry, Xanda, are we talking about the younger generation in the list or the older
Right,
generation?
right. The younger generation, because they're frequently, the adult child or the grandchild or whoever that is going to be the one on the front lines to step up with their older parent or whoever.
And sometimes, and again, it's hard to start that conversation, but sometimes it's okay, do mom and dad have, or grandma and grandpa have enough money to make it through the rest of their life? And you may have an idea, but that's a starter. And then, asking them, do you have a retirement plan? As your financial advisor, have they run the estimates of, are you going to run out of money? And I remember when I started in this business back in 2000, reverse mortgages were the evil stepchild of the finance world. Um, and now with inflation and um, you know, depending on bond rates, et cetera, people are running out of money a lot quicker. And do we need to look at that to supplement, the finances? And I like to run retirement analyses out to 100 years old.
Mhm.
Quite often I'll have clients, I don't know, I'm not going to live to age 85. But if you run that plan to just 85, but that plan then blows up at 87 and they live to 88, where's the money? Then
Mhm.
you're caught. What do you do? Um, And so it's really for that younger generation, where's the finances at?
Mhm.
Um, will they have enough? And then asking the question, have you run that retirement analysis? Granted, most all of us will have Social Security, but if Social Security provides $4,000 a month of income for a husband and a wife, but their monthly budget is $6,000, well, where's that other 2,000 coming from? And is it drawing down on a depleting asset that goes down to zero, or is it going to last forever and then still leave a legacy? And then the next question would be health. How good a health are you guys in? Um, have you thought about long-term care issues? Have you planned for that? And that's a long-term care insurance question. Part of that financial, because I'm insurance licensed, um, I do sell long-term care insurance. But you need to have that conversation with your advisor or your insurance agent. Maybe have we planned for that? Because it can run up to $70,000, $80,000 a year. And most likely, everyone's going to need some kind of extended either in-home care or in a facility care. Um, Third question, and I feel like I'm kind of repeating myself, but you know, where's the legal stuff? Where's that will? Where's that power of attorney? Where's that living will? Where's the advance directive? All of those documents. Have you taken care of that so that we know who to go to? And then the insurance side, okay, did mom and dad forget to renew the car insurance? And that brings up a whole nother question of um, quite often on insurances now, they'll say, if you miss a premium, is there somebody we should contact to make sure that that policy stays in force? We do that on the long-term care insurance side. But the car insurance, what if, memory slips, the bill gets, I don't know, thrown underneath the bed or under the dining room table or
Mhm.
whatever, and they forget to make that premium, and then they get in a wreck. You don't want that. So, how are the insurances, the home insurance, the car insurance, flood insurance, fire insurance, whatever it is, um, and Medicare, are they, have they reviewed their Medicare insurance? And these are questions that, as a financial advisor, you know, I can do Medicare. I choose not to. I refer all of my clients out to an expert. But when's the last time you reviewed your Medicare premiums? Um, are they appropriate? You've got to review that stuff. And so, those four things, those are starter, I guess, the starter list for that younger generation. And then you just dive off and keep asking questions,
Okay.
so that you get a whole picture. Hopefully, mom and dad, though, or grandma and grandpa, it'll flow the other way back down. That here's where everything's at, just so you know.
I would refer again to the Area Agency on Aging, John. They have certified benefits counselors, and their job is they're trained in Medicare, Medicaid. They probably couldn't sit down with someone and go through their entire financial package, but they could be helpful in answering some basic questions that people have about Medicare and gap insurance and all of those kinds of things. John, you referred to a lot of do's. Uh, do this, think about doing that. How about from your experience, have you seen that you have some pointers of what not to do? The don'ts.
So I'm gonna talk a little bit more about dues, and then yes, I'm gonna talk about a few of the don'ts. Um, Another do, and again, sometimes it's hard for a child or yet that younger generation to insert themselves into mom and dad's business, grandma and grandpa's business. But I've had clients bring their kids, their grandkids, because they are going to be the ones responsible. And so, if the kids can be involved in those financial advisor appointments, the attorney appointments, the CPA, and it doesn't have to be an every quarter or once a year kind of thing. It can just be that one time introductory um, conversation where the kid gets to meet that trusted advisor. That I think it's a great opportunity for that long-term plan. Um, the don'ts, and I kind of touched on it already. You get that bad feeling in your gut with a trusted advisor. Well, obviously not trusted if you get that bad feeling in your gut, but run, but ask for referrals. The attorney, the CPA, the financial advisor, the insurance agent. You know, if you really like them and you trust them with everything you're sharing about you know what your grandkid did last weekend with the baseball tournament, they'll have a good referral, and most likely it'll be somebody that they use themselves. I think that's a good idea. So again, don't continue to use somebody. Don't don't use an advisor that is pushing, that uses those words that, oh, you got to do it now, sign now. Um, you know, and it goes with money, and it goes with attorneys too. And and I know we all like to bash attorneys. Um, there are I call them trust mills, to where these attorneys are, you got to have a trust, and by the way, it's going to cost you $5,000, and you better do it now because you're going to die tomorrow. um, the advisor and I sell annuities or offer annuities to my clients, but some financial advisor that is, by George, you've got to buy this annuity or you've got to buy this tax free bond and you've got to do it today. Uh, Those advisors should be teaching and giving you information to chew on, to think about. And, the advisor should be saying, when you're ready, here's a couple of ideas. And when you're ready, give me a call. And, or if it's a no, that's okay. I do it all the time with clients of, okay, well, that didn't fit, that's fine, let's figure this out, or we're going to just stay where we're at. An advisor that's just going to push push push, run as fast as you can, and that's just my opinion. And I'm sure everybody on this has heard this before. Never ever ever never never ever give personal information over the phone, ever. And I'm going to make one caveat to that. If you know it's your trusted advisor on the phone and you've talked about this before, hey, I need, your niece's date of birth for the beneficiary form, that kind of thing is okay. But you darn well better know that's who you're talking to. I'm gonna give you guys an example, and it makes me sick to my stomach. Um, but I have a client up in Oregon. Her husband passed away, and she called me up one day, and I knew he had passed away. We were in the process of claiming his account for her benefit. Um, and she goes, "Hey, I need to cash this in." Okay. And that was the first, because it was a retirement account and it was $300,000. I need to cash this in and I need to move it. Well, that sent, danger bells to my head. And okay, what's going on, Vicky? And she told me, and this person had called her on the phone and said her US bank account was um, in danger of, and I can't remember what words they used, but you need to move all of your assets to the US Treasury. She moved $280,000 of her bank
Oh,
account and
oh,
wired it to
oh,
Africa.
oh.
And um, and she didn't tell me that. She goes, well, they say I'm going to lose everything if I don't move all of my money over. And I said, Vicky, you need to, and I said, you go down to US Bank. And this is a small town, 10,000 people, and I know she liked being at home. She didn't want to get out of the house, but she's fully able. I said, you need to go down to US Bank physically and ask what's going on. She truly lost all $280,000 out of her US Bank account. They could not recover it, etc. And I actually, if you have a financial advisor, your advisor has the ability to put a hold on accounts. And I immediately, when I figured out what was going on, and until we could straighten it out, I put a hold on the account. She wasn't going to be able to move it. And it took her about 2 weeks to call me back. And she goes, I was a little upset with you that you put a hold on my account, but I'm thanking you now
Mhm.
because you saved that money from leaving. And it just, it goes back to that, don't, the phone scams, the text message scams. I mean, that's the other thing. Don't respond to any bank, credit card, any messages, voicemail, text message, email. Don't click on any links. You go, if you have the ability to go down somewhere to actually physically talk to somebody, if you think a message is strange, do it.
Mhm.
So sorry, I get a little
No,
wound up about that, but we see these people abusing and taking advantage of our elders, and
mhm,
it makes me mad, makes me sick. Yeah.
exactly.
Yep. So talked about outside influences. This is really tough. I'm not sure quite our makeup with our callers today. Um, but there are family members that will also take advantage of the older generation. And you've got to be wary of that. If there's a brother or sister or a cousin that always seems to call up grandma, grandpa, mom, dad, hey, I need more money. Hey, I need more money. Hey,
Mhm.
add me to your bank account. Hey, add me to your investment account. Big no-nos. You've got to be aware of what's going on. And I know we all love our kids. I have a son that we're still trying to get him through Texas A&M, but I control the money, and we're getting him through. But I'm not just handing them a blank check to unfortunately, is a huge issue with our older generation that family members take advantage. Um, and that talks about giving away money. Um, quite often I have of clients that will say, well, I want to make sure that all the assets go, especially when we're talking about long-term care, that who want to protect those assets. There are look back rules for moving money. The state, before you go on Medicaid, will look back and say, well, what's that $50,000 transfer to Miss Susie? You're going to have to come out of pocket for $50,000 before we'll step in and start paying for your care. I just use that attorney, use that advisor to do the planning properly. Just don't do it on an ad hoc basis. That, I think this is going to be a good idea. Use those advisors for that advice.
Mhm. Other questions that people have. While we're waiting for questions to come in, John, someone asked this question: when or how to speak with your teen child about finances, or do we speak with her appointed caregiver? I think that person is probably referring to someone that has a guardian, um, and it doesn't refer to necessarily older adults or to an elder. It may have to do with a disability. Ma'am, I would suggest that you talk to the ADRC about that. And again, just call the 211, doesn't matter where you are, Aging and Disability Resource Center. Call them and see if they can help answer some of the questions that you have. The focus of our session today is primarily about older adults, family members of older adults, but I think you'll find some information that would be helpful through the ADRC.
Xanda,
Other,
can I add on to that?
please.
And it'll just be real quick, and I'm going to take the other side of that. Quite often, our younger generation has no clue how to balance checkbook,
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
investments, etc. The younger you can get them started, even if it's just a a small account with $500 or $1,000 to get them started, and have an advisor that will spend an hour and teach them. I have an own loan presentation, but most advisors kind of have that beginner investor presentation. It sets up a pattern of financial well-being if you can start the generation early. When I was in Oregon last, one of my valued clients, they wanted their son to come in and visit with me. He's 16 years old, and I want to understand. And so we visited for an hour. I didn't charge him for the hour. It builds that financial well-being. And sometimes the older generation needs that education too. I've had 60-year-olds come into my office and not have a clue. They have a pension, but they don't know how it works. And so a lot of what I do is teach.
Right. Is it true that many banks have tools also that they can help guide, especially young people and older people? But
Yeah, there's some really unique things right now with the banking and the credit card industry. What they're doing, that it allows kids to open accounts, but parents get to monitor both the
okay,
spending and the deposits in those accounts. And again, it creates that early education and understanding of finances. I think those are some unique tools.
right. Does anybody have other questions that you want to um, raise your hand, or just we can unmute you? You can either chat. While we're waiting for people to gather their thoughts, John, as we're winding down somewhat of what you talked about today, it may not be possible to have a summary of everything you talked about, but what are some key points that you think are so important that we walk away with?
I really firmly believe you have to have that team behind you. And somebody's got to be the quarterback. It can be you. It could be the financial advisor. Typically, it's the financial advisor. But again, it's the advisor, the CPA, the attorney, the insurance agent, and they can intermix a little bit. Sometimes you can find a financial or a CPA that can do investments. You'll find an insurance agent that can do investments. You'll find an advisor that, well, like me, that can do some insurances. Again, we can't all be a master of everything. Um, we each have our own unique um, lanes, if you will, but they all need to talk to each other. Um, Start the conversation. That's point number
Start
two
the conversation.
of share, be open, ask questions, respect that older generation, and their views and their boundaries. Um, Open-ended questions.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really about sharing. Some may not.
Start the conversation. Communicate, right?
Yep. Yep.
Again, any questions that anyone has?
Paula typed something in the comments.
Okay, I'm looking back over. Paula, do you want to ask your question? I've lost.
Hi. Okay, I'm here.
Hi, Paula.
Hi, John. Great talk. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So, I had a very tough situation with my stepfather. He would say things like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't care. I could care less. And he left a big mess. He really did. And it was just, he was so stubborn. And I was just wondering if you had any suggestions for dealing with stubborn people.
Treat him with love. It's hard. Some people aren't going to open up at all, and some of it's just it's time, taking time to just kind of get some details. And unfortunately, I use the example of Scott and his mom. She, okay, she left him a lot. She left him over $1 million, but it was scattered and he had no clue. And sometimes you got to deal with the mess that's left. Um, write down any little bits of information that you can get about them. Unfortunately, I don't have the silver bullet of, here's how you deal with stubborn people. Just keep asking questions, keep after it, but also know their boundaries.
Trick question. I know it's impossible to answer. I wish there were an easy answer for it, but I do appreciate it is really good advice just to talk and gather any clues you can. So thank you.
Yep. Yep.
I'll share what I've heard some caregivers say over the years is very often, unfortunately, there's an event, a medical event or a legal event, or a death that starts the conversation. And if the emphasis is on, I want to make sure that we take care of what you want, how you want us to handle this, so that we're not in this situation like you find yourself now that so and so is in the hospital or has died or whatever. Very often, older adults and younger adults, for that matter, there's a fear factor, just afraid that something's going to happen and that control is going to be taken away from them. And your comment about getting all the players to talk, I again will refer people to the Area Agency on Aging. They can help people have a simple will, and they can help people have a medical power of attorney and a power of attorney. These are all statutory forms, those last two that are on the web for that matter. And you at least could have that going for you when you start talking. That I'll give a personal example. That's what happened with my mother. I offered her the power of attorney so that she maintained all of that control, but she designated me since she no longer was getting out and driving and doing any of those things. So just think in terms of put yourself in their shoes. How would they feel? Stephanie, you have a question or a comment?
Yes, thank you. I was wondering if you have any thoughts or suggestions if you're the older person and your adult child is has like mild autism or other developmental conditions, mental health conditions. What suggestions would you have in regarding that situation?
So Stephanie, I'll take the legal side of that first, but also going to defer to an attorney for that question. There are some trusts that can be done for that care of that child. If you want to ensure that, they're taken care of should something happen to you. And you can set up some accounts that where you'll have a trustee or somebody a custodian that would manage those assets appropriately. So that's more of a legal side of things. And so you'd want to visit with an attorney about what kind of trusts are there to set up for their care. And I'm going to go back to Paula again really quick as well. Paula, maybe those difficult conversations, sometimes it's easier for people to talk about their health needs and or how do you want to be cared for personally, those types of things, get them to open up about those types of things. Where do they want to live? who should be caring for them, and then maybe gently ease into the financial side of things and the legal side of things, because sometimes that can be a little bit more touchy with people. Just an idea.
And Stephanie, let me add again, I'm going to throw in the ADRC and the, depending on how old your dependent daughter is, the Area Agency on Aging. Just call that 211 number. Many communities have a guardianship services nonprofit organization, and many of the people serving on the board or part of those organizations are attorneys or they're highly skilled and trained. Reach out and see what might be available in your wherever area that you live. Reach out, make some phone calls, and you might find you can unravel this problem, and it's not going to be as tough as you feared to at least get started.
You both.
Okay,
Thank you,
everyone.
Stephanie.
John, any closing comments?
I really don't. I had to chuckle. You asked me about, top items, a summary, covered a lot of ground. And again, just trusted advisors, have a plan, ask questions,
Right.
be caring with those questions.
Be human.
Yep.
Okay, John, thank you so much. Before we end, though, everyone will see on their screen, it says polls or quizzes, and this is a session survey. It's just a few questions asking you to rate how beneficial this program was to you. It takes you less than 2 or 3 minutes, I think. How satisfied are you with this program? We would really appreciate your giving us that feedback so we have an idea of how helpful this was for you. John, thank you very much. I know that you've given a lot of thought to this, and you'll probably be tapped to do something similar in the future. And one of the things that you mentioned was let's try to pull together some other professionals. We had the attorney talk last week. If any of you have ideas for some of the other needs there are out there. Someone mentioned about veterans. And if you've got a direct contact, that would be awesome. But I've just had some problems finding someone that can talk to us about that. But you may have that contact. Thank you so much, everybody, and take care. And we hope to see you next time. Bye
Thank you,
now.
Xanda.
Thank you, John.